My name is Tara Kachaturoff, and I'm the host of Michigan Entrepreneur, where we feature businesses from startup to stellar. Today we have as our special guest Jay Hawreluk, who is the CEO and founder of AcuMax Index. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Tara.
Well, we're excited to have you on the program today to talk a little bit about your business and the life of an entrepreneur. So to get started, let's talk a little bit about your background and how it led up to starting your company, AcuMax.
Well, a little of my background is I actually went to business school and started out as a banker and decided I was given some good advice in my banking career. I'd started out, did very successful, was given some advice that I needed to take on a different role. When I took on that different role, though, I didn't like it anymore. I didn't like working there anymore and left. And that started my entrepreneurial bug. I went and did some different things and then predominantly got into the sales role, became a lean manufacturing consultant, and then eventually got introduced to personality assessments, which started me on this path.
And so how long have you been running this company, AcuMax?
AcuMax, we're 25 months old.
25 months old, so a couple years old. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your company does and who you do it for?
We are the only assessment that measures and reports on how people are wired. Everyone is wired in a certain way. It gives us certain information. I saw a hole in the marketplace. There's so many assessments that measure behavior or personality, but I saw a real hole in the marketplace on wiring. So I started this company a couple of years ago, and that's really what we're unique at. We're used predominantly in organizations. We can be used for hiring, and then motivating people, conflict resolution, explaining the differences why. One of our taglines is, when you know why someone does what they do, the mystery goes away, and therefore interactions are improved.
So are there any legalities around using assessments in the workplace with employees? How does that all work, either in the pre-employment process or even after they're employed?
Well, there's a couple of good questions here. Number one, personality assessments are not covered under HIPAA law restrictions. So people can use the results freely in the workplace. Second of all, to be used as a hiring assessment, you have to be statistically validated, which basically says, do you purport to measure statistically and consistently what you say you measure? We are a statistically validated instrument and can be used for hiring. We're EEOC compliant. There's no significant statistical variations based upon age, gender, or ethnicity, which is important in hiring.
And so the other types of assessments that you would do would be testing of competencies. Is that correct? Is that the other kind? If it's not personality, what else is it?
Well, there's other types of, there's tons of assessments in the marketplace. It could be a skill-based assessment. How well do I do data input? You know, what's my mechanical aptitude? Those would be skill-based. There could be intellectually driven assessments, which measure cognitive reasoning skills. So there's a lot out there. You can't just kind of plunk them all together, but there's personality, skills, competency assessments. There's a big box of them.
So when you decided to start a company, had you done other entrepreneurial things in your life before this point, or had you always worked for other people?
No, I actually had my first step into business many, many years ago, and it was a big disaster. I was not successful. I failed at it, but I learned a lot from that experience, and I'm very glad I did it. You know, you look back at it, I made a lot of mistakes along the way.
Did you have employees and stuff?
We had employees. We grew too fast. Cash flow became an issue. We didn't really have a good strategic plan on managing our growth. And so the long and the short of it was it kind of fell apart. I ended up selling some of the assets off.
Was it at a time that was tough in our economy as well?
It was a little bit tough, yeah. We had the recession back in '91, which kind of hit at that point in time. So, but you know, what I've learned since then is a business can be successful regardless of economic conditions if you do the right things. And it's the old story, you always learn more from your failures than your successes.
Right, because
what
would you learn? Yeah, what would you learn if it all worked out, right?
So that was my first forte in, and then I went back into working for others after that.
And speaking of things that entrepreneurs do, because I get a lot of questions from entrepreneurs, and I want to put some of those out to my guests. One of them is about a business plan. When you started this company, did you do a business plan? I mean, some people on the show, I'd say about half of them, or more than half, don't do plans.
No,
Did you do one?
absolutely. I did a plan, but more importantly, I followed the plan. A lot of times you can get distracted, and people mean great things. You know, they say, well, why can't you go do this? Or why don't you go do this? Or it'd be really great for your company if you did this other thing. But the thing is, when you allow yourself to get distracted, you don't follow your plan. When you don't follow your plan, then you get unfocused and you don't get the results. So not only did I create it, I followed it. And I've been distracted a few times.
And how about with the other company that you had experience with? Did you have a written business plan then?
No.
You didn't? Okay. Just contrasting it because it's, you know, it's just interesting.
I didn't have a plan. I didn't follow a plan. I ran it very seat of the pants, which was a great learning experience, but probably contributed a lot to the failure of the organization. This time I have a written business plan, really have followed it. Look at set goals realistically. I have some stretch goals as well, but I set realistic goals. I monitor the progress. I stay focused. And the few times I've allowed myself to get distracted, because we're only human beings, and what can happen.
And there's a lot of fun things to do.
Yeah, but the results haven't been there. You know, I found one thing. Follow your plan, stick to it, make some minor course corrections as you need to, but stick to the plan.
Another question I have, because this comes up a lot for entrepreneurs, when you know, we all have little, you know, projects that we do in our businesses, and sometimes we're pursuing something, maybe skipping happily down a path that maybe we shouldn't even be on that path because we don't know it's not the right path. How do you know when to give up on a goal or a path you're following? I mean, this is something all entrepreneurs have to deal with. When do you finally cut your losses on something? Do you do it by your gut? Do you have a certain criteria or general criteria? Because I know it's not really quantitative, it's more of a qualitative thing.
It is.
How do you do it? How have you done it, or what are some of your techniques?
Well, a couple of times I've gotten distracted, which means I've allowed people to focus my attention on things that weren't originally in the business plan. And the results haven't been good. So what I do now is, does this fit the goals, the strategic goals of the business? Does it follow the business plan? And what will be the end result of going down that path? Because sometimes things sound really good, but you got to sit back and say, does this really fit? One of the things with businesses, small businesses like myself, sometimes we get into that we can do everything for everybody. And I think you really need to have to learn when to say no. This is not what we do. I have clients come to me and say, oh, I wish you'd do this, or I wish you'd do this, or could you create this? And I have to say thank you for the idea, but no, it doesn't fit our plan. It doesn't fit, but I do know somebody I can refer you to solve that need for you. But you got to really stay focused. I think staying focused is really key.
And more so nowadays, because the time, you don't have the recovery time. Like, you could make mistakes 20 years ago and it could take a couple years. It didn't matter if it took you 2 more years to get back on the path. Now you better get back on the path the next day or the next week, because there's somebody else who's going to come right in. And, you know, I mean, it changes the whole competitive thing, your competitive advantage. It changes everything.
Oh, no, you're absolutely
not
correct.
that there's not enough for everybody, but it just, we don't have the recovery time anymore, because that can mean the difference. Well, cash flow is impacted so quickly nowadays with things, because we can go online and find, oh, that didn't work out. Or they weren't on the phone when I called them and I needed something, or they didn't answer my email fast enough. They just go find somebody else. It's that easy, you know?
When you're on the wrong path, it's like you're swimming upstream. And when you find yourself swimming upstream, a lot of activity, no movement, a lot of frustration, a lot of energy, then we have to step back, look in the mirror and say, this isn't right. The right path, it might have some bumps along the way and you might hit a few potholes, but when you're on the right path, the road is relatively smooth and you're making progress. Maybe not as fast as you'd like that progress, but you're making progress.
Do you ever, though, have some of these gut feelings about, like, hey, this doesn't feel right? I mean, I use a lot of gut check for things, you know. Sometimes I don't know, or the facts might be different, but I always like gut check everything. Do you go with your gut or intuition before you go with facts?
I do it both. Does it make sense to the plan, and does it feel right? I think you have to use that gut area. You know, does it feel right? Because there's a lot of people that are in an entrepreneur's circle of associates, friends, family that mean very well, that want you to do well, but can sometimes throw out ideas or take you down paths that aren't a positive way to go. So I think you have to do a little bit of both. Does it make sense and does it feel right? And if it feels right, usually you're on the right track.
And as an entrepreneur, because I know you deal with this in anything you've done in your life and, working on several different businesses as an entrepreneur and your current one, when you get confronted with a challenge, what are some ways, because we all have these kinds of things, they seem like relentless and they're there forever. I mean, I know you're a couple of years in business, so it's not like it's, you've had 10 years of dealing with a particular problem hanging over you, but how do you get through those times? How do you either get inspired or motivate in some of the times when they are really challenging? What are some techniques you use?
The first thing you have to realize is that whatever you're going through, it's not as bad as it appears at the time. And sometimes we have to step back.
Like objects appear bigger or smaller than they are?
Yeah, in the rearview mirror, yeah. They're actually bigger than they appear.
Right.
So sometimes real challenges, it seems so overwhelming, but it's never as bad. I mean, any person can look back in their life, no matter what they've been through, and said, yeah, it was tough going through it, but when I look back, it wasn't as bad as it seemed.
Do you think it's because they forget, like childbirth, like they forget, like they were screaming bloody murder for 48 hours and before they had the kid?
I don't think
I'll
that's
just have
part
another
of
one. It was no big deal.
I can't comment on childbirth. But I do think that sometimes it just isn't as bad as it seems at the time. Remember that. At least that's what I do. Second of all, you have to have good people that you want to be able to consult with and get their ideas. I think the biggest mistake an entrepreneur can make is, I have all the answers, I know everything, and I don't need to talk to other people. So when those things happen, I do have a great network of people I can reach out and talk to and say, what do you think? How should I approach this? Give me some input. I realize the decision is ultimately mine, but if I go to more other valued subject matter experts that can give me insight and input, it makes going through those challenges a lot easier.
Now, you as an entrepreneur, do you have a formal mentor or coach that you work with yourself? Or do you have a mastermind group or anything like that that you draw upon? Because I always like to ask entrepreneurs that to see, if they have anything like that, or is it more an informal kind of thing for you?
Well, I have an informal group. One of the advisors I meet with, he's a brilliant man, has started and sold many companies, so he can give me really good advice. I do. I lean on my wife quite frequently to give for a rational opinion, because sometimes she looks at things. She's wired differently than I am, so because she's wired differently, she looks at things a little bit differently. So that's a real positive. And I do reach out to others, and I'm inclusive of those in my company as well.
And so in your company, how many people work with your company directly? Or do you use contractors, or do you have employees and contractors? How do you work?
We have a combination of employees and contractors. There's 4 of us right now. 2 consultants, an office individual, and my IT developer that's developed our IT system. We are growing. We're going to be bringing on some more people next year. Very excited about our growth. We've had great growth in 25 months. I mean, we're used in many organizations, not only in the United States, but we're also used in Europe and China. So it's been very exciting.
Do you think you might bring on like even an intern? Because it might be something good for somebody even out of college to intern there and help out as well in learning about these types of things.
Well, absolutely, because we actually encourage a lot of our clients to do that. Because one of the issues that's going on in today's economy, it's not so much that we have an employment issue, I believe, is we have a skills issue. We're encouraging a lot of our clients, and they're doing it to create their own workforce. They're going to colleges, and they're saying, based upon your wiring and your background, have you considered maybe this type of a career? And working with them, and it's been very successful. So yes, as we continue to grow, I'd love to do that, because it's important to bring in fresh minds and new ideas all the time.
Yep. And speaking of that and things and just getting around and getting new ideas, is networking playing a big role in you connecting with the companies that you do work in? I mean, do you belong to formal networking groups, or do you go to things periodically? How does networking fit in with you as an entrepreneur?
Networking is key. You have to be able to network. You have to get out there. You have to be able to meet people.
Do you enjoy networking?
Absolutely.
Because you're sales, so you would naturally enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm sales driven, but you have to, even if you're not a sales driven entrepreneur, and there are several that we work, that, my clients, that the CEO will tell you, I'm the last person that should be selling anything.
Right.
But they're smart enough to know that they need to bring in those. But networking is very important. To meet people, to talk, to get ideas. We network with our clients. We're very open with our client base. And I'm very pleased that approximately 90% of the improvements we've made to our IT system that our clients use have come from the clients. And they're great sources of networks as well, because oftentimes a business owner will know another business owner, they're using us, they'll refer. So networking and referrals, I think, are key to any business.
Now you're playing, I mean, even, you have a strong sales background, but you're also the CEO, so you're running a company, which is an interesting combination, because those are really different mindsets and personality distinctions. So you have a combination that works very well for leadership, but also business development. You don't often see that, because I've worked for a number of CEOs and I know they don't have that talent. So that's kind of a really unique thing. Do you find that unique in things that you've seen as well? Because I don't usually see that.
It is, but
it's a great combo, because you're running the show and able to sell it.
But I'm also smart enough to know that my forte is business development. And as the company begins to grow, we've put plans in effect already for others to take over and run more administrative things, growing the company, employee benefits, the things that I don't have a lot of experience in, and it's not truly the thing I do best. I'm best in front of the clients, I'm best, networking, and I think when you start out in the beginning, you have to do everything. That's just the way it is. But as you continue to grow, I think one of the things is to identify your key areas of what you're good at and bring others in to take care of those areas that aren't. So
is there anything you really don't like doing in the company?
I really don't like a lot of the administrative work, but I have to do it.
Right.
So I do it.
But as you're growing, you're going to outsource it all.
Well, absolutely, and that's the plan.
So when it comes to things that maybe a challenge or two that you've had in your business, I know you're relatively new, and so there's different challenges you have now versus what you'll have, as you get to the 5 and 10 year marks of your company. What has been like one or two challenges that you've had, and what have you done to work through those challenges to get to where you are today?
Well, challenge number one in any new business is always cash flow. So we've been very lucky. I've been able to fund the business myself. We have no debt, which is key.
That's great.
And I am very good at looking at spreadsheets. I don't make very detailed ones, but of looking at where our cash flow was. So at the beginning of last year, beginning of 2014, I sat down and said, okay, what do we have that we can pretty much project from revenues? Where are we going to be short? What are the months that are going to hurt? And we had several of those, but we identified them and attacked them early in the year. If you wait for August to come around and you realize that you're going to be tens of thousands of dollars short in your cash flow, it's too late. If you identify it in January and you know that's going to be a target, you can start working on it earlier. So cash flow, number one. And the other part is we have an IT system, that our clients, part of our package that our clients get that allow them to administer the surveys and get reports. We've done an awful lot of enhancements, and there was a point in time where we were having a lot of IT errors and issues.
Is that computer system like in your company, or do you have it running somewhere else?
It's in our company. It's cloud-based. But it's in our company.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And the key thing I learned from that is when there were IT issues and problems, get back with the clients right away. Let them know that what was going on. We had an issue, it was about, a year ago. And we had done too many enhancements to the system, which created a lot of errors. One of our clients, we worked with them, we were in contact every day. It took 3 or 4 days to get everything resolved and working. The next week, I get a package in the mail. They sent me a bottle of wine.
Oh, wow.
And I called and I said,
you need that after
wait a minute,
dealing with IT problems.
all these IT problems, you had them, and you sent me a bottle of wine. I don't quite understand it. And she responded, she said, you kept me in the loop every step of the way. I knew I was being taken care of. I never had to call. You let me know what was going on. And we got through it. And she said, although there were errors and problems and issues, you made it a pleasant experience. And that was a phenomenal thing to hear.
That's a really nice thing. That's funny they sent you the bottle of wine.
I know.
That's great. But I mean, you really need it when you're dealing with computer issues. It's like, God, you have to drink it while you're trying to work on the problems. Like, oh my goodness gracious. Is there any other things that, like, well, let's talk about some successes, because the challenges are great, but what about successes? Like, what are one or two successes that you can share about your company that have really meant so much to you as you've grown this new business that you started, a little over 2 years ago?
Well, number one, and I've already mentioned this, is being very inclusive with my clients. We have an IT system, and they'll come back and they'll say, gee, could it do this or could it do that? I've been able to honor about 90% of the requests. A couple I just
That's amazing. Because, I mean, that can, you still got to preserve what's there. But, so are you doing it like custom for the client?
No, when a client comes, this is the beauty
It's
of it.
the
When a
enhancement,
client
everybody
comes,
gets it?
Everybody gets it.
Everybody gets it,
So
okay.
somebody comes up with a great idea, we've deployed it. The one thing is, we first started, the system doesn't look anything or perform anything like what we first envisioned. And the budget's been 5 times what was originally budgeted for it. But it's been worth every penny. And I'm really pleased when a client can say, hey, what about this? And we can do it. And the other clients can share in that great idea. That's been, I think, a number one huge success.
What do you program in? What is the language or the structure or?
We program in .NET, we're cloud-based, and what happens is when a client enrolls in our program, they can survey all their employees, they can create wiring patterns for jobs and match candidates to it, they can do conflict resolution, motivate people. We want people in the companies to have a lot of usage in the system. So if you and I were to have some sort of an issue, you pull out our wirings and say why. And then look at it objectively and resolve the issue. So they have full functioning. We teach them everything. There are no secrets. And
can they pull reports for HR review and things so they can use for assessment? So they can pull them right off the system?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we keep everything confidential. One client cannot see anything else. We respect that confidentiality. But it becomes a full functioning, we call it a hiring and motivation system for your organization. It becomes part of the corporate culture. And I think the fact that having such positive feedback from prospective clients when they see what we've developed, it's so unique, but it's so powerful and objective. And that's the key. All wiring is great wiring. All wiring has strengths and limitations. The best wiring is the wiring we need for a particular role. It's interesting, you hear 60 to 70% of the U.S. workforce, global workforce, is disengaged from their jobs. There's 2 reasons. Number one, I'm either not a right fit for it from a wiring perspective, or I'm not properly motivated, and both can contribute to that.
So with the fact that you basically partner with your clients, it's not like you're working for the client, you're partnering with them,
Absolutely.
which is a very different mindset than most companies have. You know what I mean? It's a very different kind of thing. It's like a joint venture as opposed to, yeah, it's a very different perspective. Is that something that was that kind of like your vision in the beginning, that is the kind of organization you wanted to develop?
Absolutely.
Because there's a difference in how you develop things out when you want to just be serving versus partnering.
No, absolutely. Part of our mission statement is we are a customer service driven company with great IT. I'm thinking that many minds are better than one. People will come up with ideas. Some of the suggestions I've gotten from clients, it's like, that's so great. Why didn't I see it?
Right.
Because sometimes, you can't see the forest for the trees, and that occurs. So yes, it's always been our mindset to partner with our clients, to be inclusive with our clients, to value their recommendations, and create that kind of a network.
And isn't it great that you've allowed your clients to help you create the product? Because those are the best products there are the ones that the client creates.
They do. And
because the market knows what they want.
It's been great.
And it's a lot easier for you. It might be expensive because it wasn't necessarily in the budget, but in the long run, everybody's better off.
Well, what's kind of interesting is a lot of the suggestions, what I've learned in IT things I think are going to be really hard to develop aren't. things that I think are going to be easy are.
Right.
But a lot of the suggestions have been just really common sense things that we've been able to create and deploy very quickly. Other things have taken time, but I really appreciate that input. And again, many minds are better than one, and it's very inclusive. And that partnering is key, because we want to create long-term partnerships with our clients.
Yeah, I mean, and those are the best, because you want a client for life. You don't want a client just for one.
Absolutely.
For everybody's benefit. Nobody wants to have like a brand new doctor, or or brand new CPA. Doesn't feel good. Well, we're coming right to the other entrepreneur. And I've learned a lot along the way. What is your advice to entrepreneurs, given everything you know and that's brought you to this point today?
The first thing is know what you do well and stick to it. Second of all, create and follow a business plan. And the last thing, persevere. Be persistent. Persistence does pay. Those would be the 3 bullet points I would give to any entrepreneur.
Those are excellent. I mean, I couldn't say it any better. Thank you so much for being a guest on our show and teaching us about what AcuMax does, and for sharing this great business advice today.
Thank you for having me.
If you'd like more information about our program, please visit us at www.michiganentrepreneurtv.com. Please join me again in the future when I interview another enterprising entrepreneur. Until then, wishing you the best of business.